Captain to away team. Set phasers to revival. You know, I'm not going to go back through every video I've ever done to double check this, but this might be my first time talking directly about Star Trek, which is weird. But yeah, so some Star Trek news to talk about coming from Patrick Stewart, and apparently with a kind of sort of continuation on The Next Generation. He's going to be playing the part of Captain Jean-Luc Picard yet again. So I suppose a little bit about my feelings and my relationship with Star Trek, since, like I said, I haven't talked about it before. Star Trek is one of sort of the major geek interests as far as franchises go that I am the least invested in while still enjoying it. It's not like, I mean, there are some that I've just like, I never got into or I never tried, or, you know, things like Babylon 5 or Supernatural. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff I just never got to at all. But Star Trek is something that I enjoy, but like there's no series of Star Trek that I've seen every episode of. I've seen all the movies. That's kind of it. And I have seen some episodes of some of the series, but yeah, I'm absolutely not hardcore. I am a very casual Star Trek fan. That said, Next Generation, that's my jam. You know, that was the Star Trek show that I care the most about. It's the one I've seen the most episodes of. It's the cast I feel like I know the best. And there's a couple of things that make me very about the notion of continuing with characters from something like The Next Generation. Now, the wording from what I can find is actually pretty specific. They're not calling it a reboot. They're not even calling it necessarily bringing the show back, because the only character they're talking about right now is Jean-Luc Picard, is Patrick Stewart in that role. Now, I would be shocked if we don't get at least cameo appearances by a heck of a lot of the rest of the cast. But it looks like they are framing this not as the continued out into space missions of the Enterprise as captained by Jean-Luc Picard, but the continued adventures of Jean-Luc Picard himself, which may or may not involve the Enterprise and the rest of the crew. Because as much as oftentimes the captain becomes the default main character of Star Trek, they are, all of them, ensemble pieces. And this, at least from what they're making it sound like, sounds a little bit more focused on him specifically. There are a few reasons that it makes me nervous. The first is, you talk about reviving anything that was that's been off the air for that long, it's going to make me inherently nervous, just because I can't not get nervous about it. But I'm also a little bit worried about Patrick Stewart himself, and I need to be really clear on why. Patrick Stewart is an excellent actor. He was an excellent actor then. He's an excellent actor now. This is not a Robert De Niro situation where, like, he's... you have to start to wonder, like, was he ever really that good? And then you go back and watch the old stuff and go, oh, yeah, he was. He just... It's not what he does anymore. Patrick Stewart is still good. He's still very good. I mean, you look at something like Logan, man. But the thing is, who he is as a person, and I think arguably also as an actor, is fundamentally different from when he was playing Jean-Luc Picard. Especially when he started playing Jean-Luc Picard, he rather famously was he had a stick up his butt, basically. He himself relayed the story of being on set on The Next Generation, and the other actors were, you know, somebody flubbed a line and they're all sort of laughing about it, and he chides them for laughing, and somebody says, oh, come on, Patrick, we're just trying to have fun. And he chided them, we are not here to have fun. Very super serious. That's who he was. That's not who he is now as a person. And that's not me making a judgment call that one is better or one is worse, or that the acting of a man who took himself more seriously then, takes himself less seriously now, is better or worse in either case. But it is fundamentally different, and it's gonna, since he as a person is in such a different place now than where he was then, I worry about what that means for how he's going to approach this character. Now, it could feasibly be the best thing for it because it will allow the character to grow, and it's not just him playing the character exactly as he did, 20 years ago or whatever, and even though the character theoretically should have been through enough life experiences, that he's not going to be exactly the same. So maybe the fact that he's changed will allow him to imbue that into the character. Or maybe because he is such a different person than he was certainly when he was playing this character for a TV schedule, and I would say possibly even since the last time he played it in film, that he just won't connect and build the character into anything that we recognize as Jean-Luc Picard. I think both of those are possibilities, and that makes me a little bit nervous. On a fundamental level, I also get annoyed that Star Trek has a moving forward problem, like a big one at this point. And they haven't been very clear about timeline on this, because I think I suppose it's possible that, technically speaking, this might finally be the first thing since Discovery that takes place later in the timeline than that. Because after Discovery went off the air, as far as what's gone on, it was Enterprise, and then the movies got rebooted, so we're dealing with Kirk again, and then it's Discovery, which is even before that, and this, you know what it is? Star Trek became what I said I would be terrified that Doctor Who would become if they ever had the Doctor regenerate into an actor who had already played the part, which is that Star Trek has become navel-gazing. It's all about looking in at itself and its examinations and its feelings about its own history and its own lore and legacy. And the show has not moved forward in time or in theme or in really any massive significant way in a long time. It's either been riffing on, repeating, or deconstructing its own history. It's become the snake eating its own tail. And the idea of revisiting Jean-Luc Picard unfortunately kind of fits in with that in a way that also kind of makes me go, That being said, I'm going to be very curious to keep an eye on this project and find out what gets said about it later on down the road as things actually fall into place, as we get more information on a timeline, as we get more information about where this is going to be set. Is this going to be set on a space station? Is this going to be set on an alien world and basically stay there? Like, has he taken up residence on a planet or a station? Or is it a ship that's going to go from planet to planet, which would effectively make it just like the Enterprise? But I will be very curious to find out more details, more specifics about what it is they're doing, the approach that they have, and sort of what the thematic goal and intent is. Because I can't help but think basically about the last episode of Next Generation, All Good Things, and because that's a 3-timeline story, one of them being a far future, and I can't help but think about that, and I do get a little misty thinking about that because I really love that episode. I think it's one of the better, one of the best series finales that's been done. It's right up there, and I love it. So, despite all my reservations, there is part of me that thinks about Patrick Stewart, old, and tending to a vineyard. That image from that episode, and going, oh yeah, and sort of getting that nostalgia twinge. So there's something in me that is enough of a fan of Star Trek and of Picard, because Picard is my favorite captain, and that's probably largely nostalgia, but I don't care. And there is something that still connects on that level with me, so I want this to work. But I get called a bit over analytical, a bit of a killjoy, or as some folks in the podcasting sphere have come to call me, the professional buzzkill. I can't turn that part of my brain off. I can't help it. I see where the problems might be. But I hope I'm wrong, because As Patrick Stewart is getting older, I really want him to be dedicating his time to things that are going to be memorable and inventive and new things for him. You know, I didn't watch Blunt Talk, but I remember seeing the trailers and go, nice, that feels like the kind of thing he should be doing, you know, going out on a limb, trying something different. And I hope they can find a way, even though he is going back to a character that is his most iconic role, arguably, other than Professor Xavier, possibly I would say more so. And, you know, hopefully finding a way to still have that be something new, something a little bit different. We'll see. I probably won't have anything Star Trek related to talk about again for a while. I still haven't watched any of Discovery. I really need to. I'm trying desperately to catch up on stuff from last year before we get into the fall TV season and a lot of stuff starts up again, but I'm not making as much progress as I had planned. But we'll leave it off there. Star Trek The Next Generation, Captain Picard in the captain's seat again, or maybe not. We don't know where he's going to be. But whatever your thoughts are on this, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's all the stuff to do. I'm unfortunately going to be pushing, specifically the Twitter and the Facebook, a little bit harder, just for logistical reasons. You may or may not have heard that a lot of YouTubers are having their videos not show up in people's subscription feeds, even though they should, even if those people have hit the bell. So if the only way you keep up with what I've been doing is through YouTube and your subscription feed, it's distinctly possible that if you aren't already, you may soon be missing stuff, because YouTube is really messing with anybody that isn't humongous. So I would recommend additionally either liking the Facebook page or following me on Twitter, because I do put notifications in both those places every time I've got a new video. And of course, same with the Patreon. That's the other big one. So sorry to do more of an exit ramble on stuff, but you know, YouTube's being kind of a jerk as a platform. So there you go. In any case, there's links for those things and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's all down in the description. Remember, folks, you are the council. I just run the meeting. So until next time, this council is adjourned.